This next presentation we're going to go over focuses around quality and how that impacts your job at the Celanese facility. Quality is just as important to us as safety. It helps us maintain our customers, which helps us maintain, our facility. So let's jump into it. We'll start with a couple definitions. First, we want to talk about data integrity. And all that means is that the dates, signatures, and other notations, the things that you write down and record, that they're accurate, complete, and timely. The next thing I want to define is contamination. And that is the process of making something dirty or poisonous, or the state of containing unwanted or dangerous substances. So our mission at Celanese, in general, Spherion's mission is to know, serve, and trust. When we apply that to Celanese, to know means that we understand how our documentation and work affects Celanese's business and reputation. To serve means that we produce a result that meets those high quality standards, and that ensures business continuity for all. And then to trust means that we ensure that our work and verifications of our work are 100% reliable. So know Celanese's imperatives. The first one, of course, is business sustainability. That means that the product that is inside the package, it's what's on the label. For example, if you went to the grocery store and you were buying Lucky Charms and the outside of the box said Lucky Charms, and you got home and instead it's the bag is like filled with peanuts, you're probably going to go back to the store for a refund because you weren't trying to buy peanuts, you were buying Lucky Charms. If that happens more than once, you might decide you're no longer interested in buying Lucky Charms because you can't rely on what's going to be in the package. It's no different with what we make at Celanese. We have to make sure that what is in the package is also represented in the label that we put on there. It's represented in inventory the right way. It's the same information. So we also, raw materials, we have to make sure those match the goods in process form or the GIP form, that the product that we deliver arrives intact with correct print and is well packaged. The same thing, same cereal example. If you're at the store and you're buying a box of Lucky Charms and there's several boxes to choose from, but many of them are beat up or broken or ripped, you're probably not going to be very interested in that box. And then maintaining product quality preserves reputation and can provide a competitive advantage. So if every time that we deliver a product, it is exactly to spec, it has the right labeling, it looks nice and neat, we're going to have that competitive advantage over other plants that make Santoprene. So one of the ways that we maintain quality is matching the print from our labels to the GIP form. So this GIP form will give you all the information that's supposed to be on either the bags or boxes that we pack out. The main area for errors with this comes with the manual typing that happens with the print. So if you can see on the bag there, it's printed 10187. That is called the grade number. And then right next to it, you'll see 0001996-078. That is called the batch number. And then beside that, it's kind of hard to see, but it says 25 kilograms. All of that information should match exactly to what is on the goods in process form up there at the top, and that's what's circled in red. There will also be a label that goes along with each pallet or box that has that same information. All of these things should agree completely. It is on our packaging text and our warehouse text to verify that what they are putting into the system matches, and that for the warehouse text, once you pull that off the line, to make sure that the print matches the forms that you have. You can stop a lot of errors early by checking this information and save us a lot of costly mistakes by just double checking the numbers. So that's one way. Verifying rubber, so that's another quality issue. So we use different types of rubber at the plant. We primarily use a rubber called 3666. However, we also use a rubber called 1696. We use Lyons rubber. We test trial other rubbers. So we want to make sure that we're loading the right rubber to the right line. Just like you need the right ingredients to bake a cake, you don't want to use like salt instead of sugar. You need the right rubber to go into to make the right kind of Santoprene. So each rubber crate we will need to label with these orange labels, which then can be scanned by the scanner. It should come up with a green screen when you consume it to the line, showing that that rubber has been scanned and it's good to load. If it does not come up with a green screen, if it comes up with a red screen, we need to stop and read what the error is. Sometimes if the rubber has already been verified, it will say something like rubber not available. The team leader will need to make that determination. But otherwise, if it's red and it has any other kind of error on there, we need to stop what we're doing. Do not load that rubber. You cannot load rubber that has not been scanned correctly. We need to identify what happened with that crate. If anything, we pull the crate to the side until we can figure out what has happened. You also need to accurately write down on the rubber loading sheet the batch number and the other information and the lot number that is on for each crate, an initial that you've confirmed it. We also want to look at the quality of what we're producing. So this is just two examples you can see of pallets that we consider acceptable, well-wrapped pallets. You can see that they're straight. The bags are pretty much even. There doesn't seem to be pellets leaking out. Whereas the pallets on the bottom, they are leaning to the side. The bags are kind of mismatched. This is not only does it look bad, it is a safety hazard. These pallets weigh thousands of pounds. If they were to lean and fall onto somebody, it could cause serious injury. So anybody, material handler, warehouse tech, anybody walking by that sees a poorly wrapped pallet like this should immediately bring it to supervisor's attention. We would consider that a very good catch, and then we can restack the pallet so that it gets to the customer appropriately. So quality verifications for packaging, if you're in packaging, you're going to want to make sure that the labels are printed and separated by the team leader and attached to the grade pack. The pack tech inputs the print for bags and sticks the labels to either the bag pallet or box in order, verifying the label matches the GIP form and the box pallet number. Note, when two labels are applied, each must have the same box and pallet number. So you want to keep your labels in two groups. So you have one with each. They have a box or pallet number on them. You don't want to put one label that says pallet number 1 and one label that says pallet number 2 on the same pallet. They should both say pallet number 1, pallet number 1 on the first pallet. Then after that happens, a CE tech will verify the print on the labels. And then the warehouse tech, as a third verification, verifies the print and labels during their pallet inspection when they weigh the material before putting it on the truck. For rubber loading, we also have quality verifications. So the team leads will be responsible for scanning the crates to the rubber loading line before loading occurs. So if you got your crates changed out, you should go grab your team lead and have them scan the rubber to the line. If the scanner gives a green screen, the material handler is good to proceed. If it's red, there is an error and the material handler should not load until it's clear what the error is. Team leads will verify that rubber has been scanned to the line routinely throughout shift. Any issues scanning rubber should be documented and crate batch numbers should be recorded. We also have another barrier. We only stage certain rubber at certain lines. So, for example, we only stage 1696 rubber at line 4. So if you see 1696 rubber at any of the other rubber loading lines 1 through 3, you know it's in the wrong place and you should not proceed. Quality verifications when it comes to scanning. So apart from just the scanning of rubber to the line when you're ready to use it, rubber crates that are moved to safety stock must be scanned to the safety stock location and then to the line when they're used. So every time something moves in our facility, it needs to be scanned into the new location that it's being moved to. Any item moved from a truck or lag into another location must be scanned to that new location. If a rubber crate has already been scanned, it may come up with a red screen. However, it must be approved by the team lead to bypass a red screen and continue loading the rubber. Do not scan an entire truck at once. Scan it as it is actually unloaded. So, sometimes to save time, someone will go ahead and label and scan all the crates on a truck that they are unloading. Do not do that. Do it in real time, because you might accidentally consume more rubber than we are actually using. And that kind of goes the same thing with anything. No, don't cut corners when it comes to scanning. Scan it real time as possible. So we have a pallet inspection form that the warehouse techs will use. This pallet inspection goes over different items that we're looking for, such as pallet straightness, the top and bottom slip sheets, defective pallet, bad seals, that sort of information. So pallets, either bags or boxes, should be straight with clean print on each side of the bags, good seals, correct weight, well wrapped, no holes, and labeled. And warehouse techs, if you're to report any holes, you punch into boxes. If a box isn't sitting squarely on a pallet, we should stop and move that before trying to move the box onto a truck. All of that is very important. You want to scan the line that you're picking it up from, and scan the door that you're moving the material into, or the lag that it's going into if you're moving it into a lag. This will help keep our inventory system clear, and it's part of the job as a warehouse tech. Some documentation rules. So throughout the course of what we're doing, there's different forms and things that you'll need to fill out. This applies to everything that any documentation you need to fill out with us. And the first rule is that it needs to be complete, accurate, and timely. Do not leave blanks on forms. If something doesn't apply, you want to notate NA. If you happen to make an error, just put one line through it, and then document the correction to the side or above. Never use white out or scratch out a mistake. So that goes with anything that you are filling out for us. Contamination rules. So we are the last people to see the product before it leaves the facility. It is highly important that the product we send out is not contaminated in any way, and you can prevent contamination. One thing to note is bright white pellets should never be mixed with any other type of pellet. If you see it, report it. So if you're passing by a floor sweep box and you see bright white pellets in with the floor sweep, or you're passing by a scrap box and you see bright white pellets in with black pellets, we need to report that right away. That is a grade of material that cannot be mixed or cut back with other materials. That would also be considered a good catch. All boxes, the second point is all boxes should be labeled. So if you're walking around on the floor and you see a box that has anything in it and it doesn't have a label on it, something needs to be done. You should report it to a team lead to figure out what label needs to go on that box. If a box contains any trash at all, it should be labeled a trash box. A box of swept up pellets from the floor should be labeled floor sweep. We do not put trash in a floor sweep box. Do not cut down any material into a scrap box unless you are sure about the material and it has the correct label. So be very cautious, particularly when you're dealing with pellets, where you're putting the pellets. If you're sweeping them up from the floor and there's not a lot of dust, we don't want pallet pieces in there. It should pretty much just be pellets that you're putting into a floor sweep box. And then any other kinds of trash, like broken pallet pieces, any of that can go into a trash box. Don't throw your water bottles or anything like that into a floor sweep box. We have in the past had people cut down the wrong kind of material into a scrap box, and that's caused contamination issues. So understand what you're cutting down if you're doing a cut down, and understand the appropriate label that needs to happen there. Not every material can be cut down into every other material. Also, we want to look for wet, clumpy pellets. That should be reported. So if you're running manual box out or auto box out or the baggers, and you notice that the pellets are wet or clumpy, we need to report that, because that material may need to go through rework. Any sort of foreign object or metal needs to be reported immediately. That could be, sometimes we found metal stuck in a rubber bale, which could severely damage the grinders in the system. Those would also be considered good catches. But yeah, any metal or foreign objects in this process need to be reported immediately. And then cut down screens. So occasionally you may be called in to do cut downs, where we cut down bags of material into a box and we put a big metal screen over it to run the pellets through and break up the clumps. That screen before each use should be blown off, cleaned out, so that we're not contaminating the product that you're cutting down with product from the previous cut down. So when you use that screen, you shouldn't see any other pellets in that screen before you use it. So how do we build trust with our client? We build trust by following the procedures 100% of the time, by completing verifications for packaging and rubber type, by reporting any contamination or issue, by rejecting pallets that do not pass inspection, and by documenting our work 100% accurate with 100% integrity. So what happens if you fail to follow the trust factor? So documenting incorrect data or falsifying verifications will jeopardize Celanese's customer relations and can result in financial losses for Celanese and Sphurion. Violations of trust can result in disciplinary actions such as suspension or termination, depending on the severity of the violation. An example of this is we had a packaging tech who falsified his team leader's initials on a label verification. The product was delivered to the customer and it was discovered 6 months later. The packaging tech's employment was then terminated. So just because it's not caught right away doesn't mean it won't be caught later on. A lot of this product goes and sits in a warehouse for a while before it's actually consumed. So the error might not be discovered until months later. However, you will still be held accountable for it. A packaging tech intentionally packed out finished goods material into boxes with scrap material at the bottom. It was reported and the tech was terminated. So in this situation, the packaging tech didn't feel like building any new boxes, didn't feel like waiting for a material handler. So he took boxes that already had floor sweep boxes, essentially, or scrap boxes that already had material in it, and packed out new finished goods material on top of that. That is a gross violation of our quality policy and resulted in that team member's termination. We had an issue where the wrong rubber type was loaded without the proper verification. So this is for you material handlers. The finished product was delivered to an auto parts manufacturer who molded faulty parts. The parts almost caused a complete recall for the car manufacturer, which would have also been devastating to the facility. So to ensure we have good quality, we have audits and assessments that are conducted to identify gaps and opportunities for improvement. Audits and assessments test the work that we do to verify that our work is trustworthy. So if you're not filling out the forms like you're supposed to, it could get pulled by an audit and it will be immediately noticeable that you're skipping things, that sort of thing. The findings of the audits assessments are reported to leadership for resolution. So any fines that they have on those audits come to management, and we then address them. To summarize what we've just talked about, the data we record and the work we produce has a profound impact on Celanese and Sphurion's customer relationships. It is critical that we follow documenting and operating guidelines for business sustainability. It is critical that we do our jobs with integrity and report any issue that affects product quality. And that was going to wrap up our quality presentation. If you have any questions, now would be the time to ask.